Well, welcome back, you all. So, no outdoor activities. It's been a little bit chilly. The weather's been kind of crazy, so I figured we'd just do something else. And it's not very Ohio-ish. We're gonna make rice wine, and this is more for my 21 and over audience out there. And this is more of like a Korean variety, I believe. It's not some kind of, I don't get too crazy with traditional recipes, but it is a fun little project to do. It's not expensive at all, and overall, it's just a good way to burn some time in the winter months when you're stuck indoors a lot. So, come along, and I'll show you everything that I use, and we will kind of start off on our little project here. See you in a minute. All right, so back to rice wine. So this is more of a Korean variety. Now, when you hear rice wine, you may think, oh, sake. Well, yes and no. Sake is a rice wine, but not all rice wine is sake. So this is going to be kind of more along the lines, I guess, of a Korean variety. So I believe that's Mekioli. Mekioli. Sorry if I just butchered that. Either way, like I said, super cheap, and it's a fun little project, and it usually from start to finish, maybe it'll take you 3 weeks. So, and you can go a little bit longer if you like. Not a big deal. Just has a handful of basic ingredients, and it's not even an exact science. So if you're used to home brewing, whether it be beer or wine, this is a lot more forgiving than that typical brewing. So for our ingredients, the first thing we need is rice. So this is just kageyaki, and I got this at the local Asian supermarket, and it's like 4.5 pounds, 2 kilograms, and it cost me about $10. And this is way more than what I'll probably need. But really, whether it's this stuff or something else, you can find it on Amazon. Like I said, this is kageyaki sweet rice, but really any sweet rice or glutinous rice is going to be good. And usually I recommend short or medium grain. Don't use long grain because it'll make your finished product will be a little bit more sour. At least that's what I've noticed in my experience. But and it doesn't even have to be like this. You could use anything that you find in the supermarket. So nishiki, you can use basmati rice. I know that's a pretty cheap variety. You can find just about everywhere. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Jasmine rice. I wouldn't use brown rice or wild rice. From what I've read, they don't really do all that well. And the results are not very good. So stick to eating your brown rice and your wild rice. Do not try to make rice wine out of them. So, but yeah, any medium or short grain, sticky rice, glutinous rice, sweet rice, sushi rice, anything like that, good to go. All right, so for the actual fermenting part, I've got a handful of ingredients here. The first one that we've got here is this Angel Rice Leaven. All right, now again, I got this at my local Asian mart, but if you don't have one of those near you, you can find these on Amazon and order them. And everything I use here, I'm going to put links into the description below. So if you don't have an Asian mart anywhere near you, you can just order this stuff online and have it shipped to you. It's not super rare. It's not super expensive. I believe one of these little packets cost me 50 cents. Now, the leaven here, the Angel Rice Leaven, what this does is it contains a little enzyme that gets into the rice and helps that break the starches down to turn into fermentable sugars. So when you're brewing beer, you do a mash, which heats up. You heat up the water, and it pulls out all the fermentable sugars from your malted barley. With rice, it's starch, so there's not really much in there. You can't just throw yeast on rice and have it really do much of anything. So that's where this leaven comes in. This enzyme comes in as it gets in there, breaks down all the starches in that rice and converts it into fermentable sugars. So you need this stuff. This stuff's important. Another thing here are these yeast balls here. All right, again, I got these from my local Asian market. Now, these are sort of if you want. Now, in theory, these contain both the yeast that you need as well as that enzyme that gets in there and breaks the rice down. Now, I found that these are just about 50-50. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, or they don't work super well. So you can try a batch with these, and if it works for you, awesome. But if not, I usually kind of go with more of a foolproof method. In tandem, they should work. So if you're going to use one, I definitely use the other one just to make sure. Sometimes these yeast balls, either the yeast isn't as viable as it should be, or the enzyme that's in it is not working particularly well. So in theory, you should be able to do all of it with just this. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I prefer to use a more foolproof method, which is my rice leaven. And then I also add yeast on its own. So this is just distiller's yeast. I've had great results with distiller's yeast, but a lot of other folks, they use other types of yeast: ale yeast, wine yeast, champagne yeast, cider yeast. Some folks even use baking yeast, those little packets that you can get at the grocery store for making bread. But you will I like the distiller's yeast. I think it gives it a little bit of a better flavor, and it does have a little bit of a higher alcohol content than like bread yeast will. I enjoy this, and these two things in tandem tend to work pretty well. And again, this bag of yeast, I think, was $12 on Amazon. Or if you have a homebrew shop around, they should have a whole variety of yeast. So this is just Red Star Distillers active dry yeast. So, and it's dried, it's like bread yeast, and you just add a little bit of water to it, get it kind of going. Or you don't even have to do that if you want. So those are our ingredients. Now for equipment. We need something to ferment it in. So if you have I recommend any kind of wide mouth container. Now if it's glass, great. If it's stainless steel, that's wonderful. Maybe even a jar, perfect. If it's going to be plastic, make sure it's food grade plastic. This is just a plastic container that I got at Walmart. People tend to use these to store flour in, and beans and rice and whatever dry ingredients in them in their kitchens. It is food grade plastic. If you've got fancy brewing equipment, that's great. I would not shove all your rice down into a big glass carboy that has that little nozzle on it. If you get whatever you get, make sure it's kind of a wide mouth, because you're going to be shoving rice into it, and then when it's all done fermenting, you're going to be getting all that rice out, and it's going to be like trying to get a big ball of putty out of a jar. So the wider mouth, the better. A lid. So these lids just kind of come with these containers here. A piece of cheesecloth. And you're not really doing anything crazy with this. All you're doing with this is putting it over after you get everything in there and you're ready to start fermenting it. You're just gonna put that cheesecloth over and then kind of screw your lid down. So, and what that does is it keeps little germs and bacteria and wild yeast and stuff from getting in, but it creates just a little gap there that lets all the carbon dioxide and lets oxygen get in and the carbon dioxide out as it ferments. All right. A strainer bag. So, and this is for, you can usually get these at Ace Hardware, Walmart, Home Depot. Painters use this. They put it over a can, and then they'll strain the paint out to get any little sticks or dried paint or whatever. So yeah, but a paint strainer bag. They usually have a little elastic top on them, and we won't be seeing this again for a while, because this is just what we're going to use once our fermentation is done, and we're going to get all that liquid and separate it from any remaining rice. You dump it all in there, strain it, squeeze it out, and these have you can use these multiple times. Obviously, just give it a good wash. Throw it in, rinse it out real good. Throw it in your laundry wash. And then just a couple of other incidentals here. So I use this colander, this strainer, and I only use this really to wash the rice. So you may have seen me use it before, but I put my rice in here. I measure my rice out, put it in here, and then I rinse it and wash it and get all that dust off of it. You always want to wash your rice, whether you're cooking with it, whether you're making sushi, making something else, or whether you're fermenting with it. Always wash your rice. Run it under cold water, or you don't even need to do that. Just stick it into a pot and fill it up with water and jostle around, empty it, do it again, repeat that until your water's pretty much clear. After that, and I don't actually have it on here, but a cookie sheet. So, and again, this isn't an absolute necessity. What I do is after I cook my rice, you need to cool it down. I'll take this, and I didn't bring it over here, but I'll put a piece of parchment paper down, throw my rice on top of it, spread it out to let it cool faster. If you just let it cool in the pot or whatever, it takes forever, so I'm impatient. But really, that is our main stuff that we're using here today. The other thing I'll mention that you'll need is a way to cook your rice. Now, if you have a steamer, that is ideal. Soak your rice for a couple of hours and then put it in the steamer and steam it how you normally would. And that's actually recommended. I don't have a steamer, so I do it differently. If you have a rice cooker, perfect, do that. If you don't have any of that and you just have a pan, a saucepan to cook it in with a lid, go that route. That's what I'm going to be doing because we're going to be using a lot of rice today, and I need something big. And I do have a little rice cooker, but it's tiny and only holds like 2 cups or something, and I'm going to be using a lot. This fermenter here, I could probably get anywhere between probably 6 to 8 cups worth of rice in here, and I don't want to fill it all the way up to the top. I want to kind of leave a little bit of room in there, so I'll probably aim for 5 or 6 cups of rice for this, and I believe it's a gallon container. But I'm going to get to cooking. I got some other stuff to do, and then I'm going to start cooking up some rice, and I will see you in a little bit. All right. So I have measured out 5 cups of rice in here. So all we're really going to do is I'm just going to fill this up with some water here. All right, we got some water in there, and then just kind of get in there and churn it around with your hands. And you can kind of see all that cloudy water. We want to get as much of that out of there as we can. There we go. And repeat the process until, it'll probably never be perfectly clear, but you want it to be probably anywhere between about 4 or 5 times. Just wash it. You're not going to kill anything by using this, but I do found if you don't wash the rice, you're going to come out with, it's going to be kind of gooier than what it should be, and that'll end up leaving a sour flavor on your finished product. So repeat this process a handful of times. It's okay to use just good old tap water, but when we do actually cook our rice, make sure you use spring water or water you get out that's been filtered, whatever works. City water, if you have well water, that should be okay too. If it's something that you'll drink, then it should be okay to cook your rice in it. If you wouldn't drink it, then don't cook your rice in it. Like city water here, they use cleaning chemicals or sanitizing chemicals like chlorine and other things to kill bacteria. You don't want that in your rice because that could kind of hinder your fermentation. So I'm going to wash this off a few more times until we get it pretty much mostly clear, and then we'll start cooking. All right, so I've added all the water in here. And it doesn't have to, you don't need a measuring cup or anything. And honestly, when you're cooking your rice, you want to err on the side of al dente. So you don't want it to be mush. You don't want it to be overwatered. And that's another one of those things that could sour it, or it just doesn't ferment quite right. But just to test, once you have your rice in there, add your water in, put a finger in, a clean finger, and the water should come up to your fingertip, that first little joint there. All right, and if that's where your water's at, you're good to go. And even if I wanted, I could probably dump a little bit of this out, but it should be fine how it is. All right, so there we go. Our rice is all cooked and good to go. So, and this is what I was talking about, the cookie sheet, as well as a piece of parchment paper. You don't need that. You could just lay it out on the island or a clean countertop or something if you really wanted to. And obviously you don't need the parchment paper, but I just do it because it's easier to clean up and easier to deal with. But I lay it out only for the sake of just letting it cool. So as soon as this is cooled down, we'll sprinkle all our rice leaven on there. We'll sprinkle our yeast on there, and then we will pack it into our fermenter. And then we'll be good to go. Alright, let's see if I can get my feet in. Probably not. Alright, that's alright. We'll sit down. Why not? Alright. Alright, so this is cooled off. I mean, you can just take a clean finger and stick it in there. Make sure that it's not hot. We don't want to kill our yeast. We don't want to hurt anything. We don't want to burn ourselves. So give it about 15-20 minutes and then put a finger in. Make sure that it's good and sufficiently cooled. I'm going to go ahead and cut the top off of my rice leavening here. It's a really fine powder, and I'm just going to kind of run it over the entirety of my rice here. Get everything pretty well coated. This is 6 cups of rice, so I'm going to use this whole entire packet for this entire 6 cups of rice. So that's trash. All right. Now, like I said, you've got those yeast balls that you can use, and you can crunch them up and do the same thing, sprinkle it over the top if you want to go that route. For me, they're kind of hit or miss, and I don't know if it's because they're old and on the verge of expiring or something, but sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So I like to kind of go with I like a little bit more of a guarantee. So I've got my distiller's yeast here, and I'm just going to take some of this and kind of do the same thing. Just kind of go over it, sprinkle it over it. Most of it. All right. And just a little bit more over here. Get some more. All right, perfect. So that is good to go. All right, and from here, I'm gonna set this up over here for a second. All right, set that out of the way. All right, and then from there, I've got a bowl of just water for my hands. And I've got my fermenting vessel. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna get my hands all nice and wet. I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna mix all that leavening and that yeast and everything around. All right, good deal. If the rice starts to stick to your hands, just get them wet again. Get in there, mix that around, get it all sorted out here. Oop. Lost a piece of rice. All right, and for the most part, that should probably be pretty good. Super sticky. All right, we'll plop you on over here. Get my hands wet again. All right, And then we've got our fermenting vessel. So I'm just gonna take that, drop a clump of rice down in there, drop a clump of rice down in there, drop a clump of rice down in there. All right, and you don't need to pack it in. You don't need to do anything like that. And you don't need to add any extra water. Some people pack it in and then they'll dig like a little well in the middle of the rice just to watch it, but I don't really do that. And I found that you don't really need to. I don't know if that's supposed to benefit it in some way or another. I found that it doesn't really matter. So just get as much of this in there as you can. We're getting sticky again here. All right. Let's see. Let's get our hands wet again. All right. And there we go. All right, make sure you get all that in there. No rice left behind, folks. Okay. And that's pretty much it. So at this point, I'm gonna dry my hands off, and then we'll get this guy capped off and get it somewhere dark. All right, so yep, how I mentioned before, I'm not, if you have fancy airlocks and all that, you know, by all means go for it, but I just use a piece of cheesecloth. You could also just use a paper towel, or if you have like one of those, if you have like a dish rag or something like that, you can use that as well. You just want to make sure that it's clean, and then if you do use a rag or something, just make sure that it's not dropping lint into your rice. I don't think it'll kill you, but it's probably just not ideal. There we go. So it's just probably do a little bit better than that. There we go. All right, and there we go. I've got the lid on. I didn't super tighten it down, but that's ready to go. I'm aiming for anywhere between 20-21 days. I'll be checking on it fairly regularly, just to check its progress. Probably within a couple days, we should start seeing some liquid building up in these little gaps here in the rice. And then as soon as that stuff starts appearing, then our yeast starts activating and going to town on that. So we should be good to go on this one. I'm going to go ahead and write, what I usually do is put a sticky note on it, just reminding me of what date that it should be done. And then we'll throw it in the basement, someplace nice, someplace dark. Ideally, anywhere between 65 and 75 degrees is ideal for this. If it's on the colder end in the 60s, it's just going to take it longer. If it gets too hot, it's going to work too fast and it's going to go sour on you. So it'll just turn into rice wine vinegar super quick. So anywhere between 65, 75, and you should be golden. So we will get this down in the basement and let it do its thing. All right. Well, it has been about 3 days, maybe 3.5 days. We've got some progress going on here, so let's take a look. So you can kind of see it in there. It's a little line of juice starting to kind of form down in here. Yep, all these little crevices starting to fill up with that liquid that's broken down. So yep, up in there. So yeah, it's coming along. So pretty soon we're gonna see more and more and more of that, and then it'll probably actually start bubbling. But right now this rice has gone from being like al dente rice to being almost like sludge. So as that enzyme breaks down the starch in the rice, all the rice breaks down. And it basically, yeah, turns into like Play-Doh over time. So, but it's moving right along. So I'll see you in another few days and we'll take another look. All right, well, we are coming right along here, folks. So let's have a look. We are 5 days in. You can kind of see the line of liquid up here. Maybe you see it move around if I kind of squeeze it a little bit. So this is coming right along. That you also, even if you just kind of look at the rice up here, that's in like the dry area versus like that enzyme is breaking down all those starches. Pretty soon we're gonna, you know, probably the yeast is already working on some of it. Yeah, it's doing its thing right now. So it's coming along really well. So, I don't know. Hang on here. Let's see if we can get this off of here. Ugh. Yeah, there we go. So, taking a whiff, you got this sweet kind of smell going on, and there's also just a little bit of booziness kind of on the back end of it, but it's coming right along. So we're about 5 days in, so whatever, roughly a week. So in another week we'll go ahead and take another look at it, and then week 3, usually 21 days is like really where I cut it off at. Now, if it's someplace that's kind of cold, we'll just check on it and we'll see how it's doing. But usually 3 weeks, it's done, and then we'll on the 3rd week we'll pull it off of we'll strain it out, bottle it up, and we'll have some delicious rice wine. So I'll see you in another week. All right. Well, we are at day 21. We might actually be at day 22. So let's have a look. All right. Let me get that out of there. You see, I mean, you can just see the consistency here is like, it's like mush. So all that enzyme has broken down all that rice. It's been fermenting away. So we're ready to bottle it up. Now, I could leave this longer if I wanted to. And it'll get a little bit more sour, but then it'll eventually turn into rice wine vinegar. So if you're just looking to get some rice wine vinegar out of it, you could just leave it be and let it do its thing. I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna bottle this guy up. So for bottling, I've got my little mesh painter's strainer bag here. And then I've got a bottle, so any old bottle will do. If you got some leftover wine bottles, you got mason jars, it doesn't really matter. Just get yourself any old bottle that you want, and then let's go ahead and let's get to bottling it up. All right, so we're good to go. So what I'm gonna do is I've got a bowl here. Just any old bowl will do. I'm gonna take my little mesh strainer bag and I'm gonna kind of wrap it around the edge here. It does have a little elastic band on there, so it doesn't have to be too crazy. And then we'll move this back just a hair. All right, so from there, go ahead and take the lid and the little cheesecloth off of our fermenter, and we're just gonna take this and just dump it on in. All right. Smells good. All right, put that in the sink. All right, and then from there, just kind of pull this on out of here. A lot of liquid. All right, so yeah, and then from here, really all you're gonna do, I'm actually gonna put my little strainer here as well, is just start kind of giving it a little bit of pressure. Taking off my sweater. Let's roll up my sleeves here. All right. Yep. Just kind of start working that out of there. And this is where kind of like the little painter strainer bag kind of comes into play. They're really sturdy, so you don't really have to worry too much about them bursting open and having to start all over. But get as much of this out of here as you want. So, I mean, it's pretty wild to me. I mean, like, basically 6 cups of rice turned into this little ball, and I can even work this down even further if I wanted to. Yep, just give it a good squeezing out here. And yeah, get as much of that delicious rice wine as you want out of there. And then what I'll do is I'll just kind of plop this down there. I'll let it sit there and just drain for a little bit by itself. All right, it's been sitting for a minute. Now, one other thing I'll just point out is all this rice that's in here, our little bag of rice leftovers. This is actually very edible, and it's supposed to be really good for your gut health. So it's almost like a dessert. It's like sweet boozy rice, but it's great. And I've taken it before, put a little bit of cinnamon on it or something, and just eaten it as a snack. So it's actually really good stuff. But I'm gonna go ahead and toss this in the sink for now. All right, that's really it. Let's go ahead and move our camera up a little bit here. We can see each other. Okay, this looks good. And yeah, from here, just get our little funnel, get our bottle, and just dump this in there. You know, I mean, obviously you can test it if you like. I'll save about a little glass's worth just for my own enjoyment here. And depending on how much you make, you know, you'll obviously need more bottles, but that's that. So what I'm gonna do from here is I'm actually gonna take this, I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator, and the longer it's in the refrigerator, the more it'll start to clear out. All that cloudiness will start to settle down to the bottom, and putting it in the refrigerator actually speeds up that process quite a bit. So I'm gonna go stick this in the refrigerator, and then we'll try out a glass of our, you can drink it just like this if you want. If you just want it to be a little bit more clear, then put it in the fridge and let it sit in there. Also, you'll just want to refrigerate this. Unless you're gonna drink all of this right away, I don't recommend that. Then keep it refrigerated. It'll last longer. It won't sour on you, won't turn into vinegar. So I'm gonna plop this in the refrigerator. All right, and just to kind of give you an idea of what it starts to look like when it's been refrigerated for a while, this is another batch that I made a little while before this other one. You see it's starting to clear up here, and then there's all that cloudiness starting to settle down to the bottom. And I know it's a little more difficult to see because of the green bottle. But yeah, the longer you wait, the more that'll settle down, and eventually you'll have a fairly clear rice wine. So let's go ahead and give it a taste. All right, so we're ready to give this a whirl. Let's see here. All right, so I've got my the one that's been kind of clearing out for a little while. It would have cleared out even more if I'd have left it in the fridge a little bit longer, but you can kind of see there's a little bit more of an appeal there. That's good. And then here's the one that we just bottled just a minute ago. So I just left it cloudy. You can absolutely drink it this way. It really is up to you. It almost has like the color of like skim milk, or like a glass of water that you put a little bit of milk into. So it tastes fine just the same. Yeah, very good, very good. So anyways, that's my take on rice wine. It's a fun project. I definitely recommend everybody going out there, trying a batch. Obviously, be 21 and over. You can get all the ingredients, everything from the rice to the fermenters to the little yeast the yeast and the enzyme. You can get everything online. If you have an Asian market near you, you can also go there and get everything at your local Asian market. So, but if you can't, Amazon's a great place to start. So, but thanks for watching. As always, you know, I appreciate you watching these videos. You know, a lot of the time I just do it out of boredom. I don't do it for trying to become famous or anything. I have a normal job. I work for a living, but I do enjoy just making these little videos. So, but I appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribing. Feel free to forward this video around as well if you think it's going to be helpful for someone. And until next time.